This case study is taught at the Harvard School of Business and is indeed an amazing example for all organizations, irrespective of the size and type of business they are into, to learn from and embrace. I was indeed fascinated by this case. It's a true happening, and it actually relates to me even more, as I had 4 people whom I knew and know and who were a part of this incident. On 26 November 2008, as you all would recall, a group of 10 terrorists attacked the city of Mumbai, which was used to be called Bombay. These terrorists broke up in teams and attacked over a dozen locations in the city. One of these locations was the beautiful, iconic 103-year-old Taj Mahal Palace Hotel in South Bombay. For 3 nights and 2 days, there was absolute havoc in that hotel. Guests were terrorized, people wounded, shot, and killed. These terrorists with automatic weapons, plastic explosives, grenades, and backpacks roamed freely through this whole hotel. For those who were not in the Taj Mahal Palace Hotel, would never have understood nor experienced the scare of terror within.
We did not know the scale of the attack. We did not know what exactly was going on, where they were at that moment. And there was total chaos. My colleagues were trapped with guests in various places, asking me what should we do next.
Incidentally, Karambir Singh Kang, the general manager of the hotel, passed out from the Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, the very institute even I passed out before a decade of his. There was drama happening in the hotel. There were 500 guests registered on the night of 26 November. There were approximately 600 guests attending dinners and banquets at functions at various venues within the hotel. There were about 600 or so staff members on duty that night. Many of them very young, 20 and 30 years old. Some of the staff members were fresh and just a couple of months old in the hotel. Many of them fathers and mothers, the sole breadwinners for their family with children waiting for them at home. We don't know how much of the details that happened there, but what we certainly know is that all 600 of these staff members knew all the back routes. They knew all the exits. They knew the entry points and the kitchen galleries, etc. In other words, they knew how to get out and get out really fast. All the research that has been done in psychology is that the natural human instinct at this time of terror like this is to flee. So think about it. What would you do? So when I've been reproducing this case study in students and professionals like you, I ask in your opinion, how many of these employees fled? And how many of them do you think stayed? And I get unlimited guesses. The maximum anyone guessed and said for those who stayed were less than a quarter, 125 to 150, and that was the maximum. Everybody who could run away would run away, but the truth of the matter is that nobody ran away. They all stayed. In fact, some of them not only stayed but helped guests out and came back in to help more guests out. It's an amazing story, and these are some of their stories.
The staff of the Taj stayed on duty throughout the siege, calming frightened guests and assisting in their rescue. Many even came back inside after leading guests out of the building. Members of the hotel's team of telephone operators, originally evacuated, voluntarily returned to their stations and stayed on all night.
They became the hub of communication at that point. They were the ones calling every single guest room, talking to the guests and telling them to stay in, don't step out, lock your door.
As the terrorists roamed the halls, telephone operators instructed trapped guests to pull their key cards to turn off the illuminated occupied button in the hallway outside their doors.
The attack started at 9:30 in the evening. Till 4 o'clock they were answering guest calls. I think that speaks a lot for a hotel under attack.
Among the guests at the Taj that night were members of the Global Board of Directors and senior management team of Unilever, who had gathered along with their spouses to honor incoming and outgoing CEOs.
So we had this really elaborate 7-course meal, and that was sort of the setting, the mood. There was warmth, there was laughter, there was a perfect setting for a nostalgic farewell and a perfect setting for a nice welcome. And I heard what seemed to me, which is an untrained ear, like firecrackers in the hotel. Malika came to us and said, "We think there's a problem. We're not sure what exactly it is, but I request all of you to be on the ground right now." The level of calm and composure that the staff displayed was amazing, was absolutely amazing, because they had the presence of mind to even advise us, saying, "Couples, please separate, don't stay at the same place, just be in different corners of the room."
65 lives at stake, so can't take a chance. So obviously we were in touch with security all the time and had a lot of alcohol in the room, so that helped a little.
This went on the whole night. We were on the floor with our hearts in our mouth, with debris falling all around us, the noises of firecrackers all around, and all through the staff kept their composure, kept coming to us saying, "Do you want some water? Do you want something?" And this went on till 4 or 5 in the morning, when the room filled with smoke. So we had no choice but to find a way to escape.
The entire corridor outside the hall was on fire. There was no way we could get out. The fire guys were outside and they were dousing the fire on the 6th floor. And we happened to see Mr. Kang downstairs as well. So he sort of ushered the fire guys to us.
We sort of climbed onto the ledge and did some stuff which in today's normal day I wouldn't be able to do, but we sort of came onto the ledge, climbed down to the ladders which by then the fire brigade people had come. The staff insisted that we would go first, guests would go first. And they kept like that till all of us had come down, and then they all came down.
Well, in a way, because I was there, I was looking after the function, I was responsible. I could have been the youngest in the room, and I know at one point of time I was the youngest in the room, but I was still doing my job.
The easiest thing for our staff to do at that point in time was to drop whatever they were doing and run out of the hotel. Not one did that. Not one.
I come from an army background, not myself but my father, he retired as a general in the army, and he often used to say, when I was even appointed here as the general manager, he used to often tell me that you are now like the captain of the ship. And I think that's the way you think, that you are the captain of the ship, and you have to be the last one to leave, and if it sinks, you sink with it.
At some point, our kitchen brigade decided that it looked like a lull in the thing and they could be taken out from the back of the kitchen through the fire exit to the back road, and our chefs had formed a human chain to escort people in the darkness down those stairs, and as hundreds of them were being evacuated, somehow 2 of those terrorists got to know that this was happening, and the terrorists arrived there and saw these chefs lined up herding people away, and there was mayhem. They cut loose, and that's where we lost our biggest numbers there. We had 5 or 6 of our chefs gunned down, but they took the bullets.
Said that they risked their lives in just making sure the guests were safe.
I don't think we would have made it out of the hotel without the support, the assurance, the constant service orientation that the staff provided, without doubt, which is why we will continue to be so grateful to them.
As you would recall, one more amongst the various sites targeted by the terrorists was the famous Leopold Cafe in South Mumbai. Here my close friend, Mr. Girish Gore, who was then the country manager at Putney Computers was sipping his beer when he heard gunshots and chaos around him. He fled, and as luck would have it, he thought of taking shelter in the Taj Mahal Hotel. Least that he knew, he was going from a frying pan to a fire. To reiterate, 500 registered guests, 600 guests in restaurants and banquets like the Unilever event, which you all witnessed, where my first cousin, Mr. Dhaval Buch, who is now located at Singapore as the global sourcing head, and his wife, Madhvi Puri Buch, who was then the CEO of one of the wings of ICICI Bank, who currently is a whole-time director at SEBI, were a part of the Unilever function. So 600 employees, 1700 people that night. Of the 1700 people, over 1600 escaped safely, including my known ones. Only 34 people died in the hotel, and of those 34, truly half were staff members of the hotel. So when this case study was looked at closely, management pundits asked senior management how this happened, why this happened, what explained the behavior of their staff. These were young people. Malaika Jagad, the banquet manager of Unilever function, was only 24 years old.
We started getting these text messages and phone calls. There were some gunmen on the loose. The only logical thing to do was to close the doors and just stay put. But there was something more important to be done.
Then what explains it? And you heard they cannot explain it, including the senior management, Mr. Ratan Tata, head of Tata Group of Companies. He also could not explain this.
I can't explain it. There were no manuals, there were no instructions for what should be done under the circumstances. So what seems to have happened is individuals, from the waiters to the managers of the restaurants, all had this goal of let's get the guests to safety.
So this indeed is a case study of leadership from below. You know, usually what is taught is leadership from the top. This leadership from below. And when this question is asked, how is this possible? Audiences have come back with possible explanations of the behavior of the employees of the Taj. Some of them say it must be the culture, the national culture of India. There is something in our value system that explains it. In fact, there is a value or belief that says that a guest is to be treated like a god. Whenever a guest enters your home, treat her or him like God. Hence, in Sanskrit, it's said, Atiti Devo Bhava. Others say, no, it's not the national culture. It's the corporate culture. Since Taj Hotels is owned by the Tata Group, they have a large history in India, very benevolent human resource policies, a family of integrity in their business dealings, and that's why. Well, some others say it's not that. It happened in a hotel. It's the industry culture. It's hospitality. Employees are trained to serve customers, and that's what was going on. All of these sounded logical. Researchers went back to the records of Taj Mahal Hotel to review their HR policies. Who were these people? Who were the staff? Where did they find them? How did they recruit them? How did they train them? How did they motivate them? And a lot came to surface. Lots of really intriguing things. Let me share, in interest of time, 3 of these. First, about recruiting. You know, they recruit their frontline employees from school, not from major cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Madras or Kolkata. They recruit them from cities like Indore, Haldia, Arunachal, Ranchi, Nasik, Pondicherry, etc. And they recruit these graduate students for attitude and not for grade. They ask headmasters, teachers questions such as, who are the students who have most respect for older people, for parents, for teachers? They are not looking at students with the best grade, but rather for the best attitude. Second, training. This is fascinating. We have heard of brand ambassadors. Most of the companies train their employees to be ambassadors for the brand of the company. You know what they do at the Taj Hotel? They train their frontline employees to be ambassador for the customer or for the guest. This is indeed imaginative and counterintuitive. They call them guest ambassadors. They believe that the frontline employee should be the voice of the customer or the guest to the company. And third, and perhaps most importantly, is their motivation system, their reward system. Their incentive is just not monetary. They pay average or just above average in the industry. But they reward people with recognition, personal recognition. So when an employee does something extraordinary and the guest writes a note, within 48 hours, the employee is recognized. They do not wait for a Christmas or a Diwali bonus. It happens within 48 hours. Indeed amazing. In fact, they won the International Award for Innovation in HR Management. So let me close by asking questions what we think about the lessons we learned from this company. All the takeaways that we can scale and bring about in our own organization. The things, the way customers are treated, building a customer-centric guest culture, a corporate culture, relationship and an organizational culture, rethinking the contract between the employer and the employee. And finally, let me close by saying, this is something which was supposed to be a symbol of terrorism, is today a beacon of hope. Thank you.